Hey guys, Max here. I'd written this guide for a friend of mine who's thinking about becoming a software engineer. And what I realized is that it's getting quite long and I have it all on a single web page. So what I'm going to do in this live stream is just share the work that I do to split up this one web page into several web pages that are a little bit more easy to navigate and a little bit more easier to share and to promote. And what I'm going to be using is I'm going to use this tool called MakeDocs, which I discovered. It's an open source tool. Anybody can use it. I've only used it for 5 minutes or so. But what I'm going to do with it, I need to install it first if I don't already have it. It's a Python tool which allows you to convert Markdown, a certain format for text content, like the guide is. It's mostly a text-based guide, converting this Markdown format text into a web page. So it's a really simple tool. I'll illustrate how simple it is. It has a few commands. You can create a new project pretty easily. So if we look at what creating a new project looks like, what I'll do is I'll call it backend engineer, and you'll see got this new directory created. There's only really a few files. There's only 2 files, MakeDocs YAML, which has a single line, and then an index file. This is probably the home page. So with this MakeDocs tool, there's also MakeDocs serve command, and that starts serving up the website as it's rendered from converting Markdown into HTML and whatnot. So if we go to our local host, which is the domain name of our own computer, you can see got a very basic minimal website. Now there's some really nifty additional tools like MakeDocs themes, where without needing to know CSS or write any CSS, there's all these pre-built themes. I like the material design theme here, and it's very straightforward to enable. So we just need to install an additional Python package, and then without adding any additional files to this site, we can just modify the YAML file here and say theme name material, and if we make docs serve again and we revisit the page, it auto reloads, and you can see that it's got this nifty design here. So what you might be wondering is, okay, I've got my website, maxmountainer.com, which is where the current guide is living. How am I going to move it over into this new separate site, and maybe how will I host it? So what I'm thinking about doing is maxmountainer.com here. You can see it's HTTPS. It's got my own domain name with my first name, last name. What I'm thinking about doing is making a path like 30 days, and maybe I'll have more than one guide, and I'll call it 30 days to backend engineer, right? And so I'll want to deploy my website to be at this URL, and all pages underneath that will be at that URL. I won't probably complete that task on this live stream, but I figure I'll give people a sense of where we're driving towards, so you can imagine how this page might fit into this website. I'm probably going to change some stuff about the formatting of this to make it more clear which of these are, blog posts versus which of these are full-blown guides to how to do different software engineering skills or how to use different software engineering tools. But first things first, I have my maxmountainer.com Markdown files in here already. It's a website that is built using Jekyll. For those of you who haven't heard of Jekyll before, Jekyll is a Ruby tool where MakeDocs is a Python tool and behaves virtually identically, has its own themes and whatnot. I like MakeDocs. I think I actually prefer it to Jekyll at this point. I'm just more familiar with Python than Ruby. It doesn't cater towards blogs. It more caters towards project-oriented site layouts. But from what I can tell, it's very simplistic, and I like simplistic. So without further ado, what I'm going to do initially is I'm going to copy the file that contains the 30 Days to Software Engineering Guide. Currently is a Markdown file. I'm going to put it into 30 Days to Backend Engineer. I'm going to put it in the Docs folder. So if we go back to the Backend Engineer directory, you can see now there's a Markdown file. So we're probably going to need to rename it because I'm pretty sure that MakeDocs infers what the URL of a given page should be based off of its file name. So let's rename this file to just guide.markdown. What we're really going to be doing is just breaking that file down into individual files. So you'll see now we have 2 docs pages. Sounds like Jesse's trying to come in at the moment. Say hi, Jesse. We're live streaming right now. No problem. You can come say hi. We want to get something else on. No, seriously, live streaming. So we need to run MakeDocs serve. I already killed the process, so you can see it auto reloads. You'll see now that there's 2 pages, so we can visit that there's some jankiness to it. Like you can see there's some weird curlies and % signs, and what's going on here is that one is this is a 404ing image. We only copied the Markdown file. We didn't copy any images over from the Max Mountain repo. This is a special type of Markdown syntax. It's called cramdown. I'll show you. It's cramdown with a K. But cramdown, as far as a Markdown processor goes, is that they have more features than the vanilla Markdown that I'm guessing MakeDocs comes with. But if we search MakeDocs cramdown, I'm sure there's a very easy way to specify that cramdown should be the version of Markdown compiler that you should use. Maybe not. We don't need a table of contents because that's actually what we're doing in the first place, is splitting up this very, very, very large doc into separate files. So you can see there's already these headers. They ignore the curly braces, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, actually, we have our index.markdown. What we should probably do is take our guide. We don't need this header information. We do probably want the hero image. So maybe instead of welcome to MakeDocs, we make it welcome to 30 Days to Backend Software Engineer. We can remove a lot of this. In fact, let's remove the table of contents. We don't need that anymore. I'm just relocating content here in the monstrosity of Markdown file to individual files on the right. So let's see, assuming I've changed these 2 files, let's see how it looks over here. So if we go home, you can see now it's inferring the title from the first line here of our Markdown file. We might want to change that to maybe just welcome, or maybe just introduction, to be honest. Cool. Before I forget, let's change the title of this. Let's call it 30 Days to Backend Software Engineer. You can see that changes the title up here. It changes the title here. Cool. So one thing I'm not familiar with MakeDocs is how, if you have a bunch of files in your docs directory, how to make sure they display here in a certain order. So it probably makes sense to go read the docs about how that works. They have some information about editing the index.markdown, which we're already doing. They have some information about adding pages, which we're already doing. They have nav. So in our MakeDocs file, you can see it's pretty simple right now. It's 3 lines. But rather than letting MakeDocs just look in our docs directory and infer what the nav bar should be, this is the nav bar that's up top. So you can add tabs up here in the top nav bar. I'm wondering about this sidebar on the left. So let's read a little bit more. We're not interested in the nav bar. We're interested in the sidebar. Let's see. We're on the overview, getting started, adding pages. Here we go. This is all a single page. Let's search MakeDocs order pages. There we go. Looks like this is definitely a common desire. Yep, sounds about right. So it looks like we may need 1 line in our MakeDocs YAML for every single page. Not crazy, but kind of tedious. You can see here's an example project that has a ton of files. It's kind of cool. You can specify the hierarchy, which makes a lot of sense. So I don't know, let's get to work. So we'll want a pages, is what it looked like. Or rather nav, not pages, nav. Yeah, let's do nav. And in it, we're really describing the files here. So first file will be intro, and it's colon delimited, and it'll point to a file. Let's go guide and just verify that this works. So that should cause a reload. Let's see what it did. Cool, they're in order so far. Let's try creating more pages. So we have our guide.markdown. We really want to split this up to stay motivated. That seems like a good topic. So this will probably want to link to the next page. So we'll set a placeholder URL here. I'm unfamiliar if there's a way to say like link me to the next page without hard coding a URL. So we'll just leave a placeholder empty URL there right now. But one thing we'll need to do for every page now is we'll need to say staying motivated. And we'll need to point to staymotivated.markdown. Let's see. You can see it's in the nav is in the order we're expecting it to be. You can see this is a link that doesn't link to anywhere, it just links to the current page. So we're coming along. Let's see. So one thing we should probably do real quick that's going to get on my mind is make sure we have the hero image so this looks good. So let me read real quick about how to handle static files like an image. I think we should be able to just create a directory. So you can see the structure of our directory now. I just created these two nested directories, public/images. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to where the guide is currently hosted, and I'll copy 30days.ping into our public images directory. And now that's there, I think that should resolve this 404ing. It looks like it might not. The file is 404ing, so let's try restarting the server explicitly. It looks like it's still 404ing. So let's see. MakeDocs static files. What does it say about hosting our own static files? Static resources. It says that MakeDocs automatically includes all static resources from the docs directory in a build. So what we did should work. Let's just search MakeDocs image. Maybe that'll work. Images and media. There we go. So it looks like we need to put it under the docs directory is what's going on. So let us move the public directory into the docs directory. Now if we take a look at the directory structure, you can see now that there's our public images directory. Let's go back. Still 404. Let's try restarting the server, sorry. There we go, cool. All right, that was only a little tedious. Okay, let's keep going. So we got our index. Let's add some more pages splitting out from this main file. So let's add days 1 to 3. And we'll cut and paste. I don't know why these curly braces are here. That's really annoying. So for people who are curious about the text editor I'm using to edit these files, cut and paste them, this is, wow, I'm not sure how footnotes might work in this case. I think we need to cut and paste footnotes as well. But back to what I'm doing with text editor, I'm using VI or Vim, which is a really, really old text editor. Despite that, it's a really, really great text editor. It's free, it's open source, there's a lot of mature tooling for it, albeit you do need to learn a bunch of stuff, which can be tedious. You gotta learn the tools you want to use. All right, let's refresh. You can see here's days 1 through 3. Very cool. We might want to remove the redundant title up here. You can see there's a title that I've added in the Markdown file, and when we navigate there, there's the title we gave it in the MakeDocs nav, as well as the title that's at the top of our Markdown file. So the only tricky thing here is here we have :Python. You can see in the MakeDocs YAML that there's a colon. So we might need to, I don't know if we can put this in quotes like that. Let's give that a try. We need a colon. Let's see if it chokes. Nope, it works. So yeah, you can, if you want to use a colon in the title of your pages, you got to put them in quotes, which is fine. Fine by me. Okay, so next thing is docs days 4 to 5. I'd love to screen share and live stream a little bit of my authoring of this document so I can share some of my thinking about why I came up with the order of subject matter and tools to learn in your first 30 days studying towards becoming a software engineer. That's not going to be in this live stream because I've got like 10-15 more minutes, but I just want to illustrate a little bit of what I do in producing content. So in order for that page to show up, I had to save the MakeDocs.yaml. There you can see it, days 4 or 5. And the guide is becoming shorter. You can see that some of the pages of the guide are not yet finished. They're very brief, like days 6, 7. It's the weekend. I'm not going to tell you what to do on the weekend. I may be the only 30-day guide that tells you to take weekends off. Looks like I have a issue, which is interesting. Line 5 and 10 in MakeDocs.yaml. What might I be doing wrong? Missing colon. There we go. Cool. So at the end of this, we're going to no longer have a guide, and all of these sections of the guide are going to be split up into their own pages, as you can see. So days 8, 9 are Git. I'm curious why the guide still has days 1 through 3 showing up. I thought we've been editing it down. Maybe we haven't saved it. Yeah, there we go. So now we're just cutting off pages. Docs, days 10 to 12. I'll go through and clean up these weird looking curly braces later. I'm noticing them if you guys are too. Cool. Got another weekend document. Really important to remind people to take their weekends. So just to kind of give people a sense of why I'm using MakeDocs. The thing I love about MakeDocs, and the thing I love about Jekyll as well, which is what I host maxmountainer.com on, is that these are really cheap websites to host, even cheaper than WordPress, which you might be familiar with. The reason they're so cheap is that these are just, there's not a whole lot of computer time that you need to pay for in being available when somebody wants to visit your website. So something you'll get a sense for as you become more familiar with how the World Wide Web works is that you'll come to understand that computers are expensive and they're recurring costs. You could say that same about humans, but computers don't go to sleep, which is a really great thing for computers. But as far as the computing that's needed to host maxmountainer.com, very little is needed. I pay less than $1 a month in hosting costs, which may shock some people. It may disappoint myself because it says something about how much traffic I'm getting. If my bill was $20 a month from all the traffic I were getting, I'd be probably ecstatic. But I'd also probably be hosting a little bit more interesting content than just text, because text is relatively cheap to host. So looks like we're almost done. Maybe I'll go in a little bit more detail about how, as I make changes to the guide, those changes get updated for people accessing the guide. It's not going to be in this stream because, like I said, I'm running out of time. But if people are curious, ping me on the chat, ping me as a comment on this video, and I'll elaborate. I'm also open to hearing other ideas that people would like to hear me talk about, obviously. So hit me up. Almost done. You'll see there's all these footnotes that I'm not sure what pages they belong to because I'd been writing it as a single page. And we're going to need to locate where to re-add those footnotes if we can. Remaining topics is probably the most interesting page of this guide. I think I'll be elaborating a lot more on the content in there. I think you'll all be very interested to see what types of topics are covered there. Oops. So you can see we have a very, very basic site structure. We'll come back here. We'll make sure that everything is compiling with the MakeDocs serve command, which you might remember has been running in the background this whole time. But yeah, if we go to the home page now, we've got our intro page, and we have all of our sub pages. So staying motivated, days 1 through 3, etc., 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 etc. Everything looks good. Yeah, I know there's this weird stuff. I'll clean that up later. Before I forget, let me make this a link to the subsequent section. Or I'll come back and fix that later. Guide. Looks like I haven't saved that file yet. You can see now it's just a shell of its former self. I'm going to move that to maybe a footnotes directory. And we're going to actually delete the guide file. Put it here. I'm probably going to get rid of this though. So yeah, this page should 404. Oh, the reason it doesn't 404 is because there's an empty guide.markdown file. So if we remove it, now it'll 404. Let's go back to the intro. Cool. So we set out to do what we meant to, which is take this huge single page and split it up into very nifty site structure where individual pages can be shared and bookmarked and referenced. So yeah, I hope that was helpful for y'all. Hit me up with any questions or what you would like me to cover next.